All right, y'all. It is Monday night. You already know what time it is. It is my favorite day of the week. It's Monday. Everything gets started on Mondays. Welcome to the Conduit Monday night. Hopefully, you are blessed and highly favored as I am, but more so, well, not more so, just equally as such, you were prosperous. You were taking care of business. You were fruitful. You did what you had to do. You grew a little today. If you did not, well, you got tomorrow. So I encourage you to do that tomorrow. Make a plan, set some goals, engage. Time is short. We've lost enough time as it is. We're going to get into the show this evening. I got a lot to unpack and talk about. Been quite busy, which is always a good thing. And as such, I'm not always able to come on and do the shows when I want to do the shows. But man, we got some stuff that we have to talk about. I don't even have my coffee. I don't have coffee. I don't have water. So I might have to just jump up and grab something really quick. We're going to let some people come on in to the show before we get going. I got a special treat for you today also. Super excited to share that with you. Make sure we're 5x5 here. All right, we sound good. All right. Yeah, I want to make sure we're good to go. Let's see. And while we're waiting for people to come in, let me go ahead and pop this over here. That'd probably be better for me to do, right? Let me just share a couple pieces of information with folks. One, it's a job opportunity. Bremerton Housing Authority has a job announcement. So I like to pass this stuff on. They're looking for a janitor, $19.51 an hour. It's open till May 3rd. So you have until next Wednesday. It's not a lot of time. Lots of benefits there. So go ahead and govern yourselves accordingly. www.bremertonhousing.org. All right, that's one that I wanted to share with y'all. As we're letting folks come on in, I want to make sure I'm giving you info that you can use. Also, remember, your taxes were due. If you have not finished your taxes, you still have time to apply for the working family tax credit. You can go to the website or you can give us a call, 360-373-3000. We can help you out with that. It's the first time that this is being done in the state, so it's a great opportunity for you to maybe get some money back for sure. So take advantage of it. See if you qualify, because you may. And our folks are here standing by to help you out, answer questions that you may have, if you have any. Another programming note. Remember, every Friday night at 7 p.m., 5:30 p.m. is the Conduits of Change. And that is on BCAT. So that is being broadcast into, 60,000 homes. Next episode is with the good Reverend Hank Henry Shepherd. So you don't want to miss that. This Friday, 5:30 p.m. on BCAT. We are still scheduling interviews for that. Definitely going to be a good one. We have some good folks lined up for that. Oh, let me share this information out here. This is always good. If you're looking for free meals in Bremerton, Food Not Bombs on Sunday, Salvation Army on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Food Not Bombs on Saturday. Taking It to the Street Ministries on Sunday, Our Lady Star of the Sea on Monday, New Day Ministry on Tuesday, Life Point Church on Wednesday, New Day Ministry on Thursday, Coffee O on Friday. And there's the Little Blue Pantry, which is on the Sylvan Way Baptist Church, Ariel Mobile Home Park, Sheridan Park, the alley near Iglesia, uh, NI Cristo Church, the Bremerton United Methodist Church, Westside Improvement Club, and Sinclair Baptist Church. The following food banks are at Salvation St. Vincent de Paul, Bremerton Food Line, Taking It to the Street Ministries, Lend a Hand Community Outreach, Olympic College Food Pantry, and the Bremerton Backpack Brigade. If you want a copy of this, please let me know, but it does live on the Kitsap Housing and Homeless Coalition page, and you can go ahead and get updates. Send any updates that you have to admin at KHHC or Kitsap KHHC.org. KitsapHHC.org. And that was just updated in April. So good for you to know. Whoops. All right, what else? Anything else? Let a few more people come in before we get going tonight. This is definitely going to be a hard one. I'm sure I'm going to be triggering some people this evening. If you did not see, tonight was the city council meeting. Go ahead and, not city council, but the audit committee meeting, which I am a member of. So I implore you to get involved, stay informed, so you know what's going on in regards to how the city spends its money. Let's see, a few people have viewed this. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat for you. This is every fourth Monday at 5 p.m. You can see me and the rest of the Bremerton Audit Committee having a conversation, which I think is important. All right, go ahead and put that in there really quick here. So, City of Bremerton Audit Committee. So this week is really busy for me. So I have my City of Bremerton Audit Committee meeting. Whoops, I need to redo that. Sorry about that. City of Bremerton. Space so you can actually get the link so it actually works. But on Mondays, the fourth Monday is the City of Bremerton Audit Committee meeting. And then Tuesday at 5 p.m. is the Kitsap Regional Library Board meeting, which I am a trustee for the Kitsap Regional Library. You can come on down to the Norm Dix building, or I believe there's an opportunity to Zoom in. Maybe you have to come in person or write. But the library wants to hear from you, so I encourage you to do that as well. And then, of course, we always cover the city council meetings. There is no city council meeting this Wednesday, but they will return next month on the first Wednesday, which I believe, do they go back to a meeting or do they go into a study session? I think they just roll it back over. So I'm actually not sure about that. I need to check on that. But a lot of stuff happens during city council, and a lot really happens during the study session. So I implore you to check that out too and stay informed. All right. I think I've given you everything that I want to update you on. I guess I got a little surprise for y'all. Super excited about this. I hope you can hear it. All right. Shout out to Quincy Blackman. Created a nice intro for us. So we've got some intro music that you'll be hearing here soon. See if I can play this so you can hear it. Hope you can. Let me see. Mhm. Oh man, shout out to Quincy for our new intro music there. That's hot. He asked me what I was looking for. I said, a little bit of Miles Davis. He wanted to know who my some of my favorite jazz artists are, like Najee, definitely Miles, and that's what he came up with. So shout out to Quincy. But you'll be hearing that. That is our new intro there. Let's see if I can play it again, because that'll give me a chance to go ahead and get myself something to drink here so we can get started. And everyone can buckle in. We gotta go in. We gotta go in today. I did not see it here. Where are you? I know you sent it in the email that I downloaded it. Oh, here we go. I'll just click on it again. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that. That's good stuff. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into this. I'm gonna grab my coffee. Once it hits the microwave, and we're gonna go. Okay. So much to talk about. So much to get into this evening. Definitely very frustrated in regards to what's going on in the world. Maybe I don't need coffee. Maybe I need something a little heavier. Mm. We're gonna play a couple of videos, take a look at a couple articles, and we're gonna talk about it. First one is from USA. I'll go ahead and share the link. Fair use. I'm going to give them credit for this. Okay. But if you have not been paying attention to what's been happening, a lot's been happening all at once, right? We had a child knock on the wrong door, get shot, 84, 85-year-old man. Didn't open the door, just kind of shot through the door. We had a cheerleader get into the wrong car. She apologized, she got shot. We had another woman who turned into the wrong driveway, turned around, and then was driving away, was shot twice or shot at twice. That's the individual things that have been going on. And while I could have just done the show on that alone, and some other things I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and get into these here. Okay. Oops. Fair use. Fair use.
Pick up the pieces as police search for the shooter or shooters who are injuring 8 people late last night. Zach Merchant takes us to the neighborhood where it all happened.
Somebody shot a 12-year-old girl in the Southeast D.C. neighborhood last night, and just a few blocks away, 7 other people were also shot. Police confirmed the shootings at a late-night press conference.
We are going to get to the bottom of this. This is unacceptable.
Dominique Preston was at home with his 2 kids near 5th and LeBaume Streets, where the gunfire that ultimately hurt 7 people began.
They're good people in this neighborhood. They're good people who live right and abide by the law. And just like in every society and every neighborhood, you're going to have those who don't so much do that. It's a better way. We're only hurting ourselves.
The 12-year-old girl was shot at a separate scene less than half a mile away, near the 2900 block of 2nd Street.
Given the locations and the proximity of the event.
I hear what he's saying. We need to do something different. We got to do better. But how long have we been saying this? How long?
Events. I find it likely that the two things are connected.
Keoka Caldwell was staying with family in the neighborhood near LeBaume Street and heard the gunfire.
That's a sound that we hear regularly. Just unfortunate that people got hit last night. It's just danger, afraid.
This is a sound that we hear readily. It's just unfortunate that someone got hit last night. But it's something that we hear readily. This is common. This is normal. Somehow, we have gotten to the point where we have normalized this behavior. I don't know if these people feel like they're POWs in their own community, if they can't snitch on their family members, how it's gotten so out of control. We can have conversations on whether or not we would consider this being on code. And what being on code truly means when it comes to your community. We just allow this to continue on and on and on. The problem is that we're not helpless. It seems that we act helpless, that we don't know what to do. We don't know how to do. It is what it is. We can blame poverty, racism, other societal factors, systems that have been in place. But everyone doesn't get caught up in this. Some get out. How? How do they get out? How are they able to make it through? And what age are we losing the children? Now, I paused it here just because I wanted to add my own conversation to this. But you can see in the caption, she's saying, I'm afraid for my child. Why has it gotten to that point? Were her parents afraid for their child when she was a child? And why do we allow this to perpetuate itself? You know, one of the things is we can allow these things to continue to take place, but eventually someone's going to come and do something about it. And when they do, you're going to be hollering and there's going to be gnashing of teeth. Because when they really do come in, they're going to come in hard and heavy. And there isn't going to be much in the way of empathy or sympathy for how it goes down. Let's continue.
For my children, have to watch them coming in. Hopefully they can get our guns off the street.
According to police, nobody was fatally hurt. Law enforcement believes the shooter.
You know, I had a conversation with shout out to the Rev about hope. I hope we can get the guns off the street. How? What exactly are you doing to get the guns off the street? Oh, I just hope. It is what it is. I'm helpless. I'm hopeless. Hopefully something will happen. You hear me say all the time, faith without work is dead. So you can be faithful and you can pray that the situation is going to change, that it's going to improve. But if you're not willing to do anything about it, then how do you expect for it to change?
Shooter, at least at the LaBaume Street scene, fire from inside a car.
We're looking for a black sedan, possibly a Mercedes, who witnesses say drove through the block and indiscriminately fired upon individuals here in LaBaume.
Authorities are asking anyone with any information to call 202-727-9099. In Southeast DC, Zach Merchant,
Let me play that over just so you guys can get the number.
Southeast DC's WUSA 9790 information to call 202-727-9099. In Southeast DC.
Southeast. The Anacostia down there. Some good food down there for sure. 12. Layla is 11. And I couldn't imagine having to bury my child because of gun violence. But it's a normal occurrence, as the lady was saying, or as the gentleman was saying. It's a normal occurrence. Let's get into another video here. This one is also quite troubling. Now, this is Baltimore. So we're, a little farther up the hill. Okay. And shout out to Pink Book Lessons. It's a great YouTuber that I like to listen to. Got a lot to say. So give her a look. And put that up there. And let me go ahead and share the link for this one here. Fair use again. Again, go ahead and give Pink Book Lessons a shout out. Let me slow that down. So I listened to it quite quickly there. Y'all like, what does she sound? She sound like a chipmunk. Let me slow that down a little bit. Oh, I had that on pretty quick. All right.
She talked about what she did with her son and how she's been trying to work with other mothers to address their children, but the other women are less concerned with addressing these issues and more concerned with living their best life and partying. We're going to get into all of it, but first, take a second to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Click the notification bell for all updates. Is anyone watching from Be More? If you're watching right now from Baltimore, let me know below in the comments.
And Mayor Brandon Scott delivers his State of the City address tonight after a violent few days in Baltimore.
That's right. In just the past 24 hours, 6 people were shot in 3 different shootings. One of the victims died. 4 of those people were hurt in a single shooting along North Charles Street in North Baltimore today. Over the weekend, 4 young people ages 12 to 18 were shot. The 12-year-old victim, identified as Jalen Richards, died. And now we're hearing from one mother who says she pulled her son, who knew Jalen, out.
Let me play that again. Well, we're so desensitized to it. We're so desensitized to it.
As Jalen Richards died. And single shooting along North Charles Street in North Baltimore today. Over the weekend, 4 young people ages 12 to 18 were shot.
12 to 18. DC, Baltimore, 12-year-olds, 6th graders, 7th graders, 4 kids, 18 and younger, 12. When is enough enough?
Shot. The 12-year-old victim, identified as Jalen Richards, died. And now we're hearing from one mother who says she pulled her son, who knew Jalen, out of the city to try to save his life.
People are lying to themselves, and it's very possible. I just told you my son had an Uzi. I'm not going to lie to the public. This is a...
No, you heard it right. She said her son had a Uzi. Her friend knew Jalen, who's 12. An Uzi? How? Why? Why should a child who's not even in high school, I'm saying not even, like that would make it somehow better, in junior high, feel like, 1, he needs a firearm to protect himself, 2, that it's a Uzi, and 3, that he's able to get his hands on one, and 4, his mama can't protect him. His neighborhood can't protect him. His family can't protect him. The school can't protect him. The system can't protect him. Law enforcement can't protect him. You know, one of the things that you hear, especially from police that end up killing us, they were afraid for their life. And you've heard me talk about this, right? You've got on a vest, and you got your tactical vest. You got your taser. You got a nightstick. You've got your 9. You got your shotgun in the car. You got a partner. You got a dog. You got all these things, and you're afraid for your life. You have citizens that are now also using that phraseology. I was afraid for my life. This child who's 12 was damn sure afraid for his life, so much so that he's walking around with an Uzi. Most of our kids maybe walking around with a cell phone, some candy, an Uzi. I'm saying it now, and most of y'all don't even bat an eye. It's not alarming. It's not surprising. It's just whatever. That's over there. That's not here. But you know we have our own problems. We've had court cases and trials. It's happening more and more frequently, even here. Let's continue.
crisis right now.
Here you have a mother that's telling the truth. She's admitting that there is a problem. Even her own son was involved in some stuff, which is why she picked up and moved her son and their family away from Baltimore.
Mackenzie Frost spoke with that mother. We'll have her story coming up in a few minutes.
And just to talk about that too, right? You know, we work with my agency with a lot of folks that are unhoused. And while it is not easy to pick up and go, I've watched brave people fleeing domestic violence, falling on hard times due to health or losing a job, do some really difficult and hard things to do to keep themselves and their family safe. And sometimes, yeah, I know, friends and family, you grew up in the area, but you got to go because you don't know if your baby's going to come home. So you may have to give it all up and go to start over, to start somewhere else. Being alive has to mean something.
Abel has what the mayor said during a State of the City address tonight.
Our team coverage begins with Keith Daniels. Keith joins us live with more in regards to what we know about Jalen Richards and how the community is coming together. Keith?
Well, Kai, school officials say Jalen Richards was in the 6th grade. He was a student at Westport Academy Elementary Middle School.
I said, my daughter's in the 6th grade. She takes her cello to school, not an Uzi.
And tonight, he's one of the city's youngest homicide victims. At Westport Homes in South Baltimore, recovering from the unthinkable. 12-year-old Jalen Richards, seen here in this photo from Murder, Inc. Baltimore, shot and killed. Longtime neighbor, known as Miss Cookie, in disbelief, saddened for...
Now, I don't know the Baltimore area that well. Is it really called Murder, Inc. Baltimore? And that just kind of says it all, right? Regardless if they've renamed it that or that's the nickname. I mean, what else do you expect?
For the boy's family.
The mother's heart is aching. I don't even know if she have other children or not. I don't know that. But I know she got to be hurting because I'm a mother. She's hurt.
Someone gunned down Jalen at about 9 o'clock Saturday night. It happened on Mizell Court in the apartment complex. Police Commissioner Michael Harrison says they recovered what appears to be assault rifle casings on the ground after the shooting. Investigators are releasing few details about exactly what happened, but the commissioner did say this at the scene.
A shooter produced a firearm, an assault rifle type firearm, and began firing. Struck this young victim as the victim was running away. At some point, the victim collapsed about a block behind where we are.
So understand, I'm quite divergent on the left and the banning of assault rifles. My thought is we are in survival mode. We're in survival mode. This 12-year-old felt like he needed an Uzi to protect himself. Now, that may just be what he was able to get his hands on, right? Probably easier for him to get a gun than alcohol, but that's a whole different conversation. What I don't like about the left and their advocacy for gun rights and gun control is we need a way to be able to protect ourselves. These guns are out here. They're not going off the street. No matter how stringent a gun law they pass, all these gun owners are going to be grandfathered in. So that does nothing, little, if anything, to solve the problem. In the meanwhile, you have folks that are just trying to survive the day. You have 6th graders that are just learning algebra for the first time that feel like they need a gun to protect themselves. And you know what? They're damn right. That child was right. Why? Because adults aren't doing what they need to do in order for their children to be safe. So now they have had to take their safety into their own hands. A 12-year-old. This is where we're at. This is where it's at. And this is frustrating to me. This is one of the reasons why you don't see me at marches. Let me go.
At Westport today, the group We, Our, Us, a unity engagement men's movement, steps through the neighborhood as they do across the city on most Mondays.
I love seeing, men out gathering. However, why does it take now? Miss Cookie talked about how she's a mother and the mother's hurting. What about the father? The father didn't suffer a loss?
On this night, they're in Jalen's community.
It's too late. Now, he's gone. The time for the men to have shown up is before. And so if our community wants men to lead, then that's what they have to do. The problem is that leadership means that someone has to follow. And those that are following have to follow the lead. You don't get to decide, well, I don't like how you're leading, so I'm not going to follow you, right? It's a huge reason why we're here. Selective following. You're not really following anything. Too late now. He's gone. And so many more before him. Oh, I've got another video. This is all within a few days. And what are we looking at? A dozen men, maybe? And the news crew is out. So even when the news crew is out, that's all that could be mustered. Well, it's likely a weekday. They're at work. Definitely not in the community like that.
Number one, we're bringing them presence of black men.
The crazy
let me just let Pink Book talk about it.
thing is a lot of these kids are only seeing black men when these men come into the community. Why? Because the areas that they're going into, they are only filled with women and children. The kids have no structure, no order. They are running amok and getting involved in stuff that they have no business even knowing about.
Secondly, we're bringing them unity, we're bringing love, but also we're bringing resources. There may be other individuals in this community that need employment, that need treatment.
Jalen's deadly shooting happened in BPD's Southern Police District, where police say 46 homicides and 67 non-fatal shootings happened last year. So far this year, 10 homicides and 16 shootings.
Killing, senseless killing. You just don't know why.
Neighbors like Miss Cookie looking for accountability.
I want to see everybody step up and do something about it.
What the hell does that mean? What does step up and do? See, we speak in these generalities. Hopeism. To cope. We need everyone to step in and do something. Do what? Are you going to turn the shooters in? Are you going to ensure that the other 12-year-olds that are still alive and the 8-year-olds don't become the shooters of tomorrow? What about the rest of the ones that are on the block now? You know who they are, right? You're feeding them. They're coming to your house on Sunday. They come in and they laying down when they don't have anywhere else to stay. How did it get to that point? You have this beautiful baby. Now, unfortunately, most of our children are born out of wedlock into single parents. But maybe at the time, the parents were together. What a joy. Baby comes into the world. At some point, there's so much conflict that the man is no longer in the home. And we could talk about whose fault that is and why did she pick him and why did he pick her and why didn't he deal with his responsibility and why didn't they protect themselves? We can have a conversation about all that, but it really doesn't matter right now. Child's here. Child grows up. Child's with the mother. Majority of the time, right? We're intellectually honest people here, so we're not saying all, but most. Majority for sure. And little man, he's so cute. Not even walking yet. Little princess. So pretty. Now they're walking. Now they're talking. They're in preschool. They're in kindergarten. They're 6. They're 7. Something starts to switch, especially with the boys. They hit 12 and 13, and all of a sudden, usually there's not a man in the house. He's not listening. Too big for the mother to discipline. He's going to seek structure, attention, love outside of the home. And the street catches him up. Now, typically, she can't do nothing with him. She still got to go to work. She still got to do whatever she got to do to make it. Whatever that looks like, whether or not she has other children, whether or not she's working or not, however it looks. And somewhere between 12 and 18, that child is lost. Child's lost to the street. And now has become a menace and a scourge on the very community. And it was just a few years earlier where he was so cute, so innocent. She was so cute. She was so innocent. And we repeat the cycle. We repeat the cycle. We repeat the cycle. And it's not even generational repeat, right? It's being repeated because most times it's not just one child in the home. It's multiple. It's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over again, expecting a different result. Like I said, we're going to get into some solutions, and they're harsh. Let's go back to Pink Book.
Women are leading these communities, and that's out of order for sure. But when we see the results of their failed leadership, that's when I say everybody. I mean everybody. They have to come and save the community. I'm going to tell you exactly what these people have in store for you in a minute.
Not just the mayor and the whatever. Everybody come together.
Like I said, when they actually do come and do something about it, we're not going to like it. We're not going to like it because they're not coming in nice. When they finally come in and do something about it, they're not coming in to talk and to hand out resources and mentor and treatment. They're coming to subdue, arrest, defeat, stop, destroy. See, if you don't, and when we were, from the 60s, well, probably before the 60s, but when we were growing up, one of the things that was a trope that was said to us is, I'm going to beat you so that the cops don't. Right? Because if I don't get you in line, then if the cops get a hold of you, they could end up killing you. That was a lot of our justification in the Black community on getting whooped. Right? I'm actually trying to protect you so that you're not out here off the chain and you get shot in the back. Or you get beat down because you're mouthing off to a cop. That's how it used to be. Let's continue.
Well, the suspect in this shooting is still on the loose. If you have any information about this case, you can remain anonymous by calling Metro Crime Stoppers, that number on the screen. And remember, you could also be eligible for a reward. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels.
Here's what's so sad is what's the boy's life worth? $5,000 reward, 10,000 maybe. And I wonder why he doesn't even say how much the reward is. If he says it, it's too low. Do people just not? It doesn't even entice them. They're not even going to think about calling in, which is crazy. I don't know. Let's go.
Fox 45 News.
Key, the murder of Jalen Richards is creating shockwaves in Washington as well. Fox 45 News spoke with members of Maryland's congressional delegation today who tell us they are outraged by the city's youth crime crisis.
They're always outraged. Hopes and prayers, hopes and prayers, hopes and prayers. The Black Caucus has been together for decades. Getting worse, not better. Got the report, it looks pitiful. Well, we're just helpless, so sad. Nothing we can do. People are outraged. What does that mean? Your outrage means nothing.
It's a damn shame that this continues to take place. It's a damn shame that it's out of control. And it's a damn shame that most of us don't have answers to it because it is.
This brother been in office for so long.
That this continues to take place. It's a damn shame that it's out of control. And it's a damn shame that most of us don't have answers to it because it is so complex.
You were elected. What do you mean you don't have answers? And all he has for you is it's a damn shame this, and it's a damn shame that, and it's a damn shame this. But you re-elect him, and you re-elect him, and you re-elect him, and nothing changes. It only gets worse.
And it's a shame, Senator, that they elected you to help solve the complex issue, and it doesn't look like you've done anything about it.
Speak on it, Pink.
Politicians really get on my nerves with all the theatrics. Just cursing and being extra. Can we get less theatrics and more work?
Exactly.
In terms of law enforcement, Senator Cardin and I have been working with the Justice Department to get more U.S. attorneys to Baltimore and get more ATF officers to Baltimore to address the issue of so many guns on the streets.
They want attorneys, officers. When they come and do something about it, you're not going to like it. Now, when they kill them, then it'll be, oh, my baby. But your baby is killing other babies. Your baby's killing other babies. How do you think attorney generals are going to get guns off the streets? They're not going to walk out there. They're not going to do a gun buyback program. How do you think they're actually going to do that? I wonder, maybe there are some of us that want that to happen. I'm not going to snitch. I'm not going to actively do anything to change the situation. But secretly, I just hope they come in here and just take them all away. Do what they got to do. And maybe things will be better. But how can it be better? Even if they did that and wiped all the bad folks out of that area. We just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
All right, ladies leading these communities, do you see what they have in store? Because you won't address your own issues, because you won't stop having kids out of wedlock, because you won't stop laying down and having kids with these men who don't want to be with you. They're not committed to you. They're not your husband. And you continue to create these fatherless homes. This is how they plan to address the issue. with prosecutors and more officers to come and lock your boys up. And no, you don't have to worry about your girls. They'll let them stay out and continue to fight and do whatever else they do. They want your girls to stay out and under mentorship by you so that they can become you. Yeah, so they can have the next generation of women who create more children for them to lock up.
Shout out to Pink Book. See, if I say that, then I'm a misogynist. I don't really care, but sometimes the message gets lost if it comes from the wrong mouth.
Well, lawmakers aren't the only ones outraged. Parents are too. Patty Hawkins says her son knew Jalen Richards, the 12-year-old gunned down Saturday night. Patty told us she tried to reach out to his mom to tell her what was going on with her son. Hawkins spoke with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost in Hagerstown after she moved her son out of Baltimore City.
Look at why this is happening.
Sitting in a park some 70 miles outside of Baltimore City, Patty Hawkins talks about fights her son Khalil was getting into while going to and from school in Baltimore.
These kids are beefing over the game, and then
12. I'm trying to go to school, 6th grade. Right? And he's only been in school for half a year. Now the year's almost over now. He can't even walk to school. Getting beat up on. Jump. Where do they learn that? See, this is all learned behavior. And we can see it when we say, hey, you know what? Racism isn't going away. A lot of people, they'll say, oh, it's 2023. How can we still be seeing racism in 2023? Oh, once the old racists die off, things will be better. What we're seeing is we see young racists, right? Because those things are taught. But somehow when it comes internally, we can't be introspective on ourselves and say, hey, we are teaching. This is us doing this.
we have other adults intervening in the situation, and they're instigating it.
She says Khalil was jumped and robbed. And that's when she first...
Wait, you have other adults instigating it. And we've got family members, friends, that encourage kids to fight each other. They might even jump on the kids themselves. We're seeing more and more parents going off at kids' sports, basketball, football, whatever, right? Again, a learned behavior. And so now if her daughter or if her son took that Uzi and killed your children, then you'd be outraged and you want something to happen. But if your son and your daughter is jumping him and beating his ass every day, he's scared to go to school, but he got to go to school every day, what do you expect for him to do? Because you're going to tell him, hey, little man, you got to be a man. You got to deal with that. You don't come here crying. You better stick up for yourself. All right. Well, I'm gonna need Uzi. Because at some point, I'm gonna get tired of them whooping on me. And I can't beat them all. But you know what? I can kill him. His buddy was killed. This is Baltimore. We just came from DC, from Southeast. 12. Be bad enough if these were gangbangers in their 20s and 30s. 12.
Learned about Jalen Richards, the 12-year-old who was gunned down Saturday night in
Wait, hold on. This is Baltimore. Remember, this is also Baltimore where the boys can't read at level at the 4th grade and at the 8th grade. And damn near the whole district is failing. How the hell are they supposed to learn to read when they need a damn gun to protect themselves because they're too damn scared to walk around. And there's no adults to protect them. This gets worse.
South Baltimore.
And you can say, how does it get worse when you already have a child dead?
I went to Jalen's mom and I said, your son threatened my son with a gun. My son is getting ready to turn 17. My son would really hurt your son.
It's a shame. This woman is speaking on the 12-year-old Jalen. She said that she warned his mother before all this even happened to him.
What made you go to his mom about what?
Because
Wait. So the 12-year-old Jalen, who was murdered, threatened her oldest son, who's 17, with a gun. She goes to Jalen's mother and says, hey, this is going on. And she'll tell you what the response was. Her younger son, who's 12, is afraid, so he gets an Uzi. Why is this even a thing? And why have we allowed this to happen? Why have we allowed this to happen? And the excuses and the reasons, they don't help. Poverty, racism, whatever you want to put it on. These are things we know. It's a saying, when you know better, you do better. Clearly, we do not.
You know, these kids knocked my son out.
But things did not get better. They only escalated. One day, Hawkins says she got a call from her daughter who said Khalil had a gun at school.
I walked in there by myself and grabbed my son out of their school with an Uzi in his backpack.
Your son had a gun in his?
Yes, he went up to Douglas to shoot up like those kids. He was not playing.
So he takes a Uzi to school. Now, thank God she was able to go up to the school, get the gun from her son. But that could have been an active shooter situation, right? And very likely, other kids would have got hurt. They had nothing to do with what was going on. Not that the ones that were bullying deserved to die. But teachers, other school employees, they probably would have got it too. Why? Because the child felt like, y'all don't give a damn about me. Y'all watching the stuff happen in the hall, in the classroom, and you don't do anything. I'm not protected anywhere. And if the cops that come up there and they hear, oh, he's got an Uzi. Tamir Rice, anyone? Because they're going to be afraid for their lives. But these kids and these parents live in perpetual fear.
Knocked him out and robbed him. All because he doesn't want to be in a gang.
Her son.
Like those kids. He was not playing. They knocked him out and robbed him.
Knocked him out. They didn't beat him up. They knocked him unconscious. Because he didn't want to be in the gang. I just want to go to school. I'm 12. I'm probably into Pokemon. I'm 12.
All because he doesn't want to be in a gang.
Her son refusing to tell her where the gun came from. She turned it over to Baltimore police and moved her son to Hagerstown. But before uprooting the family, Hawkins says she tried to meet with several parents of kids who were having problems.
Out of these 16, 7 of them are gone now. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. It's a crisis. I don't know how else to look at it.
But not much was done. Hawkins describing a lack of interest from some parents in their kids' lives.
This is getting crazy, and I'm recognizing that the parents care more about going out to clubs, partying.
And shout out.
Wow. She's speaking the truth, right? She's speaking the truth, right? Hit dogs holler. Some of you probably care more about going out to the club, drinking, smoking. She tried to have a conversation with the parents. They probably told her, shut the hell up. You're tripping. Right? She tried. Thank God she got her babies out of there. She got 3 of them, right? They could have died at so many different instances. The young boy who died had already pulled the gun on the 17-year-old. The 12-year-old has already been getting beat up. The sister's related, so she's in danger. They both got guns now. All learned behavior. And the parents is like, is what it is. How did the kids get socialized into this? It's the parents. It's the relatives.
To this mother
Go ahead,
right
Pete.
here. She's testifying. She's telling the truth about what's going on. In her own situation with her son, she was proactive. She moved her family away from the city and even got the police involved. But she said these hyenas, they are not interested in doing anything about it. They want to be in the streets, they want to party, and stay laid up under multiple men to get pregnant again. Out of the 16 people involved in that situation with her son, 7 of them are gone. That's nearly half of them.
And I've been pounding the streets with this situation with other parents.
That concern echoed Monday
This morning,
by Mayor Brandon Scott and City State's Attorney Ivan Bates.
we have adults in our city who are failing to set an example for our youth. They're your children. You have to raise your children.
All black leadership. All black leadership. This is what we want to see, right? We say, oh, if we get this, it'll change. It's getting worse. They're just as hopeful as everybody else is. And the thing is, you know what they're going to say? We gave you your chance and you did nothing. We gave you your chance and you did nothing. Now we got to come in and we've got to clean up what you couldn't. And again, we're afraid for our lives. So the way we clean it up, oh, you ain't going to like it. Because the ones that do live, they going away for a long time. And the ones that have made babies, well, those babies will be left out on the street. So they're likely to follow in their footsteps. All black leadership. It looks great.
Children, we have to do our jobs as your leaders. But
What the hell is your job? What the hell is your job? Yes, you are the leader. I ain't got nothing for you. We got to do our jobs. We need your help. We need to restore the community. These empty platitudes over and over again. And I know it's a impossible situation, right? We want to be governed by people that look like us. I get it. It's important. But we need people that are going to get the job done. And they're going to be unpopular. It's very likely that some of us will run for office, come in, and only make it one term. Because it'll be very unpopular what is done to clean up the city, to clean up the community, to try to get a handle on this.
parents, we ask you to help us as you do your jobs as well.
But how to hold parents accountable for their kids and their actions remains the unanswered question.
Oh, I've been having some conversations, and we're going to get into this in the second half of this because we have some some things that need to be tried.
And one city leaders say they're digging into. Now, Hawkins says kids are being targeted by adults running gangs and circles in the city, especially after laws changed last year, shielding young kids from certain crimes.
I feel like they're prey to these predators, these drug dealers that are hanging out around the schools, because it's easier to have children sell drugs for you than you to get a charge yourself to sell drugs.
Coming from East Baltimore, Hawkins says she never imagined leaving the city, but the problems within Charm City still haunt.
So I'm still afraid. Like, I'm afraid to come through the city.
Now,
You know, I had shout out to Khadijah in my studio Friday, and she talked about her perpetual fear. You're in the Pacific Northwest. Perpetual fear. She's not living in this. We're living in perpetual fear. Our children are living in perpetual fear. Adults, we have an opportunity to do something about it, even if it's little. But at 12, I don't know what I'm going to do. Mama can't help me. See, there's no conversation with the dad. There doesn't seem to be any uncles, grandparents. The community isn't here for me. I need a newsie. And you know what? I might actually have to join the damn gang just so I can stay safe. I don't even have a choice. Why am I being knocked unconscious at 12? Why am I having a gun pulled on me by a 12-year-old when I'm 17?
calling Hagerstown home, Hawkins sits in a park with the sounds of kids playing in the background. While some young people in the city are not running around, playing and being kids.
You can't imagine one of them being a killer. I can. I really can.
Hawkins says this juvenile crime trend is a parent problem first, but she says city schools and police need to intervene when there are things going on to prevent this violence from escalating. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
It's definitely a lot going on here. First, there shouldn't be dealers lingering outside of the schools. That's where the mayor should be putting more money into law enforcement to make sure that they're cracking down on those activities and those guys coming up there to recruit students.
Hey, and they know who they are, right? They know who they are. They know who they are. They have so many ways where they plant drugs and say this one said that one, or trump up their charges. Resisting arrest. Obstruction of justice. They know who they are.
I also agree with Ms. Hawkins here, who said the solution starts with the parents. As a parent, you have to be proactive and raise your own kids. As far as what can be done to hold parents accountable, you have to take away those incentives. Just like they created benefits to divide the family or encourage women to raise children alone, they need to create incentives to keep families together. Stop handing out food stamps and Section 8 left and right. If these women knew they had nothing to fall back on, they would not be laying down and creating these babies with men they let have unprotected relations with them that are not committed to them.
When there are things going on to prevent this.
I'm going to play that again. We're in the solution hour now.
This violence from escalating. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
It's definitely a lot going on here. First, there shouldn't be dealers lingering outside of the schools. That's where the mayor should be putting more money into law enforcement to make sure that they're cracking down on those activities and those guys coming up there to recruit students. I also agree with Ms. Hawkins here, who said the solution starts with the parents. As a parent, you have to be proactive and raise your own kids. As far as what can be done to hold parents accountable, you have to take away those incentives. Just like they created benefits to divide the family or encourage women to raise children alone, they need to create incentives to keep families together. Stop handing out food stamps and Section 8 left and right. If these women knew they had nothing to fall back on, they would not be laying down and creating these babies with men they let have unprotected relations with them that are not committed to them. It's easy to be reckless, and you can also say it's encouraged because they get benefits for it. The ones who are getting married and then wrecking their own homes, stop allowing them to get divorced for no reason. The government is 100% behind this whole scam because they allow these same women to take men to divorce court or child support court. They are even assisting them with parental alienation. So yes, it is a complicated issue, but it can be solved if the people elected did their jobs. I'm talking about at the city level, county, state, national. Even before all of that though, you have to have parents who want to fix their own problems that they are responsible for creating. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Special thank you to our brothers Lamar and Darius. I appreciate you all for your support.
All right, that's Pink Book Lessons, y'all. She's in the let me pop it back up there. Go ahead and give her channel a like. I like what she had to say there. And again, unfortunately, if men say it, we tend to get canceled for that, right? So when you want to be solution oriented and lead, then you are called a misogynist oftentimes, right? But if we're going to fix it, we can no longer stay in a hope mindset. We must be in a mindset of action. And no matter what is done, someone is going to get hurt. Someone is going to lose out. Some kids and some parents, some families are going to suffer. But they are suffering now. And so the problem is, again, for the black folks that are interested in reparations, one of the reasons why reparations haven't been paid out by this country is they're able to kick the can down the road and down the road and down the road to the next administration. Oh, we might talk about it during election time. Oh, maybe we need a study to a commission to study whether or not reparations should be paid and how it should be paid. Well, I think the study was just to see if they should even talk about reparations, right? At some point, something has to be done, and there's going to be consequences. But you have dead children, murdered, 12-year-olds. We were just in D.C., now we're in Baltimore. 4, 12 to 18. Let's go into the next one, and then we'll get into solutions. And Pink Book is absolutely right on what needs to be done. All right, fair use. This is, now we're in Chicago. Good old Chi-Town. They call it Chirac. Let's go, fair use.
Towners sharing their story after being beaten by teens downtown on Saturday.
A key part of the story, the Good Samaritan who stepped in to help.
Anthony Pausay is with more tonight. Anthony?
Yes, Corey and Dawn, this attack happened here on the 100 block of North Wabash Avenue Saturday night. It could have ended way worse had it not been for the intervention of a truly good Samaritan who says that the video of this attack that went viral over the weekend really only captures the tail end of what she describes as an absolutely brutal attack. The victims here, a couple visiting from out of town, they're in their early 20s, staying at an Airbnb. They were out to dinner, just trying to enjoy their night.
We were just downtown in Chicago trying to shop, trying to get some food. And we were walking down the street, and there was a really big group of guys, a really big group of people.
And girls.
Yeah, guys and girls. And, DJ had my hand, and he was trying to lead me through.
I'm glad he put that in there, because so often this is just put on to the boys, right? And these are kids. These aren't adults. But so often this is just put on the boys. And he was like, no. Girls were there too. Let's continue.
Through the crowd of people, and they pushed him, they pushed me. And as soon as they pushed me, I told DJ, I said, hey, you know, they just shoved me.
The mob attack happened right near Macy's Wabash Street entrance.
And it was a mob of about 60 to 100 people.
You know, they said they're gonna kill us. They turned around and, you know, started fighting, you know.
They were shoeless. They didn't have they were
60 to 100. They just there in town at an Airbnb to have dinner. Now, we got to talk about it. Some of our black women have basically said, well, you know what? That's what he gets for not being with a non-black woman. I'm not going to go into that tonight, but we damn sure got to talk about that. We damn sure got to talk about that.
looking for their phones, but it was no point because the phones had been taken away.
Both the victims and Lenora Dennis, the woman who came to their aid, say that several Chicago police officers passed by but did not intervene.
Cops drove right by it, act like they didn't see anything.
I literally went out into the street.
What do you want the cops to do? At some point, even the cops have an impossible task. They're kids. So do they come in hard? What happens? There's so many of them, right? They got to protect themselves. What do they do to try to get to that couple? What can that escalate to? Will they be vilified? That's a scary thing, to be getting jumped by dozens of people. You can see the cops and they literally won't help you. That's crazy. This wasn't a rival gang. These were vacationers.
And stopped and held my hands up to a police car and asked them to stop and motioned them over to what was going on. And they just cut a path around me and just kept going.
She was eventually able to get the couple into her car.
Make it make sense. She was able to stop the cop. Nah. Y'all got this. It's what you wanted, right? Here's the anarchy. This is what you got. You know, I know it's a different time. You know, we grew up in different eras. You know, my dad grew up in the civil rights era. You know, I grew up in an era of you still got whooped, and then we transitioned into, you know, you're not supposed to spank the kids, right? Spare the rod, spoil the child. You know, my principal whooped me in the 3rd grade, right? That's how old I am. But it was to keep us safe from police brutality or worse. Now, you're watching kids have no respect. Teachers, police, anything. They talk back, they talk shit, they say whatever the hell they want to say. And the expectation is I can do whatever I want and there's no consequence for it. The problem is, and I get it, you should be able to be free and say and do what you please. However, that's not the world that we live in. That's not reality. And so while you exercise your right to do so, when they exercise their right, the consequences are often deadly. And so the pendulum has shifted from, you know, you get pulled over, you got your hands out of the car. Look, officer, You can see my hands. I don't have anything, no sun movements. What can I do? Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. My ID is in my pocket. Am I able to get it? Okay, I'm reaching in right now, right? All those things that we were taught when we were kids. Now it's, you ain't this, you ain't that. Da 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 da. Yada yada yada. The pendulum has shifted so far. And I get it. I understand it. I get how it can shift so far to the other side. The problem is there's consequences for that shift. And this is one of those consequences.
Car, then she drove them to the police station.
Got told by the desk sergeant that this was going to happen. It was going to keep happening because Brandon Johnson got elected. That floored me.
An ambulance then took them to the hospital, but
So they got rid of Mayor Lightfoot. They got another black mayor in, and they're saying, hey, this is going to keep happening. And I don't know if they say it in this article here, but he basically was like, oh, you can understand that kids being kids, basically. You are not going to like when they come in and they decide to actually take care of it. And some of your kids, well, no kid deserves to die. But some just caught up in the fun. But those are often the ones that get killed, that get paralyzed, that get maimed, have their futures destroyed.
the couple was without their phones, wallets, and shoes, which had all been stolen during the attack.
I told the couple that I was going to go home to find them some shoes so that they wouldn't be barefoot for the rest of the night.
Her name is Lenore.
Wow. She gave us shoes, took us home, took us to the hospital.
Her husband as well.
Thank you. Just do unto others. And that's a mantra that I live by every day, is just.
And she's bombed for sure. But she put herself in harm's way. Those kids could have turned on her. And maybe, because she looked like their mother, they were like, okay, we'll let you live. Go ahead, get him up out of there. Now, the husband may not have even been able to do that. And she may have looked at it like, hey, I got babies at home. I got a husband I got to go home to. No, we get older. We got ailments and everything else, right? She put herself in harm's way to save those strangers.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
And despite her criticism of the police response downtown, she says the detectives at the police station who took the police report were great and did a very thorough job. An investigation into that attack is now underway, but so far, no one is in custody. We are live in the loop tonight. Anthony Ponce, Fox 32, Chicago.
Of course not. I wanted to give them their credit there. That's Fox 32, Chicago. Fair use for that. Fair use for that. So we started off in Southeast DC in Acosta area. We went on over to Baltimore. Go ahead and put this in the chat for you. And then we ended up in Chicago. And like I said, this doesn't even account for the 12-year-old that was shot through the door. Now, that's a whole different conversation, right? Because what gets lost in the sauce here is we'll be more caught up and angered about the 84-year-old man shooting the 12-year-old through the door when this is swirling all around us. So what can we do? Right? Pink Book Lessons, several other people, we're having some conversations about it. No, I wasn't talking with Pink Book Lessons, so let me get that clear. Although that would be cool. Something radical is probably going to have to happen. And I'm going to lay out some pretty radical things and see what you think about it. Because again, either you do it or they do it. And if you notice, they're not paying out settlements the way that they were for killing an unarmed black man, for police brutality. Now, Katie Porter was just let out of prison for her, 18-month sentence for killing. Right? So it's not even a lot of time, even when it does happen. When they come, they're coming hard. We also need to have the conversation that from a diaspora standpoint, immigrants that come over here and look like us oftentimes are against us. And that's a whole nother conversation. We also have to talk about that we have conservative black people that see through the eyes from a conservative lens. And I'm not going to say whether that's right or wrong. Just is what it is. So they want to see law and order. You have moderates and people that are afraid and terrified, and they want something to stop and end. And they don't have any kids that are running the gangs. They don't have any input that they can do in their community. I don't know your son. I don't know your daughter. I don't know these folks in the gang. I don't have any kids. Or they're grown and gone. They were never in the drug scene. But I'm afraid to go out because they might hit a lick on me. Or the addict that they're selling drugs might come and try to rob my house or rob me so they can get high again. I might get hit by a stray bullet. They feel helpless, hopeless. They're just trying to keep their head down. And for them, maybe they're in their family home. Maybe they're in their own home. So do they all give it all up and move away? And where do they move to where they can afford? Yeah, I know I said some really brave souls moved away. Women fleeing domestic violence. Going homeless due to health care and other reasons. But everyone can't do that. And oftentimes, where they can afford to live, they're going out of the frying pan and into the fire. And then it just becomes the devil you know. So they're asked out no matter what they do. There is no right choice. They don't know the people, but if they tell what they see, they could be in danger. Because no one in the community claims them. They're just there. And when you do try to talk to the parents, often the mothers, as Pink Book was talking about, and the mother was talking about, they're more interested in going to the club and partying, this and that. Man, don't you talk about my kid like that. Who the hell you think you are? So what do? They're getting tired of it. So now you have most of the community that wants something done about it, something harsh done about it. You've got diaspora black folks that don't rock with you, that don't identify as foundational black Americans, African descendants of slavery here in U.S. soil. You have conservative black folks that want law and order. You got moderate folks that feel trapped and they're tired of it. They were allies. They were supporters. You got other people in the BIPOC community that may have been allies and supporters. And they were helping and they were trying and they were in the fight. And they were run down and beat down and exhausted. And so they faded away. You have the left, the liberals that pander and say, oh, you just need more and more resources. It's not your fault. Systemic racism, it's this, it's that. And all those things can be factors. But they don't dare say accountability the way that the right says accountability. So it's platitudes and feel-goodisms and, well, you got to vote. And once we get those other ones out, we'll be able to do something. But it's getting worse and worse and worse. New York, California, Baltimore, Chicago, DC, Seattle, Texas. Gets that. So what do? You have our black leaders that are saying, hey, we need to do something. I know we need to lead, but we need your help. And the Black Caucus has been in power for decades. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And we're not honest about what we need to do and how we need to change. Somehow we hope, as the one parent was saying, we hope that we can get guns off the street. We hope that someone will come in and do something, but we want them to be gentle. Here's what I believe. Well, this is the conversation, I should say. This is the conversation. We're going to call this the accountability doctrine. And some of this, surprisingly, Pink Book Lessons was saying. We need to look at real solutions and move away from pandering for votes, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and not taking accountability as an individual, a family, or a community. One, we need to charge custodial parents and caregivers with the charges their children receive. Am I my brother's keeper? Whether that's a yes or a no, you are your child's keeper. That child is under your stewardship, your guidance. So if your 12-year-old is out there wilding out, if your 11-year-old is out there wilding out, if your 13-year-old is out there wilding out, those charges are their charges or your charges. Now, there's a precedent already set. Non-custodial parent is immediately required to pay child support based on the factors in each state: arrears, suspension of passports, suspension of licenses, incarceration are just a few of the penalties for non-custodial parents for not being able to pay. So they don't give a damn what happens when two people have a child and the mother says, hey, I'm going to raise this child alone and I'm putting you on child support, or the state puts you on child support. They don't give a damn whether you can pay your rent, whether you can pay your car insurance, who you already owe, how you're going to live, right? They've got their mathematical calculation. You're going to pay $1,000 a month. You're going to pay $500 a month. 250 of it is going to the state to keep the program going. The other 250 goes to the family. Well, we know what that causes, right? And what we have is men that say, well, you created that, you need to take care of your responsibility. So there's shaming that happens there, right? It don't matter what she done. Don't matter what she said, how she behaves, what she's currently doing. You made that baby, so that's your responsibility. You just gotta deal with it. And that non-custodial parent, often, majority of the time men, have no support in place. So it's already been done. There's already a precedent that has been set. No custodial parent, the non-custodial parent is immediately required to pay support based on the factors set. And they don't care whether or not he can pay his rent. Well, you need to get another job. Well, I'm trying to go to school. Well, you need to go to school and maybe you need to work 2 jobs. Real easy to hold the man accountable. So that said, no support for parents, period. If you have a child, there's no SNAP benefits, there's no WIC, there is no Section 8, there's no housing. Like Pink Book was saying, there's incentives to get pregnant and have a child because that means benefits. It means security. And the argument is, well, no one would do that on purpose. A lot of women do that on purpose. And a lot of them learn it from their mothers. There's a video, I don't have it queued up right now, pretty old, I think back in the 80s. And they were interviewing a bunch of 8th grade girls. And they were talking about how the life goal was to have kids, but not have a husband. They didn't need a husband. They could raise the kid on their own. 8th graders, that was their mindset. This isn't new. So you have to de-incentivize. 3, financial abortion from the sperm donor who don't want to be fathers. A woman's body, a woman's choice. Okay. She can decide to keep the child, give the child away for adoption, or abort the child. Or the fetus, however you want to call it. But the man needs to have the same right to financially abort should he not want anything to do with the child. 4, primary custody should go to the parent who can provide. It's so ass backwards in this country where we say, hey, you know what? You got good credit. You make a lot of money. We'll give you 0 down, really low interest rate. You could pay the higher rate. But you got bad credit. Right? You don't make a lot of money. You need this vehicle to get back and forth to work. You really could use this home if you could get a good mortgage. Maybe not today, but But you're going to have to pay maybe double because you're a risk. Now, we're just going to take that house and take all the money that you put into it and turn around and sell it. And if it appreciated, we're still going to make money off of it, right? Even if it depreciated, we still got money up out of you. We're just going to take it and resell it. Same thing with custody. Well, we're achieving a lot more equity now. Matter of fact, in some ways, women are doing better than men, right? Women are the most educated, especially Black women. So, whichever parent is better financially able to support the child, that is who should be the custodial parent. And the non-custodial parent that doesn't have that finances in place, they can go ahead and go to work so that they can live and pay their rent and pay their bills and go to school and go to training or get into the entrepreneurship and get themselves stable and share custody how they do. But no, there's no resources for you. That makes no sense When we say we're going to try to do what's best for the child, and what's best for the child is to take the child away from the breadwinner and put it with the person that's barely making it, that can't make it without the support of the breadwinner and the support of the state. That is not in the best interest of the child. And if you know history, the tender years doctrine was created, which shifted that, right? Because fathers actually retained, if there was a split or a divorce or whatever the case may be, the father had the rights to the child. And that changed during the tender years doctrine. Number 5, child support standard of living is based on the parent with the lowest finances. Richer parent could easily lose resources, which could plunge the child into a situation they can't navigate. The child is a child. Child doesn't need $200 yays and they're 6 months old. Got $300 yay booties. See, the mother was used and accustomed to a certain style of living. And you see it all the time, right? Basic needs. And again, if that's the case, then their child should be with the father or their child should be with the mother. And there are a lot more examples today of mothers who well out-earn the fathers, who can pay for the sitter, who can pay for all these different things while the child is in their custody. 6, stricter checks for ancillary funds, non-reported by the custodial parent. So we know the hustle, right? Non-custodial parent has to pay child support. The custodial parent got housing, SNAP benefits, other resources, daycare, this, that, and the other. Oftentimes that's the woman. And they're entertaining other men who are also bringing resources into the home. Well, it doesn't work like that for the father, right? Because it's not how society is set up. He doesn't typically get into another relationship and then that woman is subsidizing his lifestyle. Oh yeah, he might get a pair of Jordans or maybe he gets a PS5, right? Stereotypically. But that's not typically how it works. And those things are trivial. Number 7, an additional pregnancy results not qualified for aid. So if you have one child and you think, okay, well, I'll have another child. I can keep the ticker going, or I'm going to get more aid, or I'm going to keep it. No. Not only that, I think that you should really be immediately cut off. Now, the caveat to no support or help is, the only asterisk I would say to that is if the child has significant disabilities, Down syndrome, things like that. Number 8, charge adults who recruit, groom children into gangs, into boosting, into sex work. They should receive double sentences of the children. So if you have gangbangers that are coercing children to sell drugs and pull triggers because they get less time or no time, they get double time. This is the accountability doctrine. Let me go ahead and paste these 8 in the chat for you. I says, having a child must be a decision of father and mother. If she made her own decision without the father, then she should be the only responsible for her decision. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as Pink Book was saying, we have to de-incentivize having a child just for the sake of having some benefits and some security, right? So those are the 8. Now let's get more into the accountability doctrine. If a person has a child knowing they cannot provide for food, shelter, and other basic needs for their child, and or the parent is suffering from mental health issues, that would fit one or both of the definitions above. What definitions am I talking about? So I wanted to go and look up what child abuse was. What is the definition of child abuse? Let me go ahead and find that. Let me type that in the chat. Child abuse and child neglect. Child neglect. Let me go ahead and read that. Put that on the screen there. All right. Child neglect is a form of child maltreatment that involves the failure of a caregiver to provide for a child's basic needs, such as food, shelter, clothing, medical care, and education. Neglect can be intentional or unintentional and can occur due to various reasons, including poverty, substance abuse, mental illness, or lack of knowledge and skills to care for a child. So you know today, right now, whether or not you are able to care for a child's basic needs. If you can't feed yourself, you shouldn't be having a child. If you can't shelter yourself without aid, you shouldn't be having a child. If you can't provide for a child's basic needs, that is child neglect. And yes, you being in poverty is not your fault. You having substance abuse issues may or may not be your fault. I'll even give you that. You having mental illness may or may not be your fault. You having a lack of knowledge and skills may or may not be your fault. But it damn sure isn't the innocent child's fault. Okay? Child abuse. Let me read that. Child abuse, on the other hand, is the intentional harm and threat to harm to a child by a caregiver. It can take many forms, including physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. Child abuse can cause long, lasting physical and emotional harm to the child, including anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and relationship difficulties. And this is where we come in with generational poverty, generational trauma, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. This is where this comes from, right? And so when people intentionally have children because they know, hey, I'm going to be eligible for housing, I'm going to be able to keep my housing, I'm going to get more food stamps, I'm going to get these resources so I don't have to go to work. Whatever their excuse is or whatever their reasoning is, it's intentional when they know and is premeditated. You know, it's interesting. You know, we've had a conversation about feminism last week with City Council. Matter of fact, I'll have to talk about that because after my podcast and the things that I said at City Council last Wednesday, Councilman Frey did reach out to me, wrote me a letter and wants to have coffee. So I probably will do that, and I will share that information with you in another podcast. However, feminism, there are good parts to feminism, right? But there are a lot of bad parts to feminism. There's a lot of hypocritical parts to feminism. So either you can or you cannot. But either you are being neglectful or you're being abusive. And oftentimes, you will have feminists that want it both ways. Your body, your choice. You should be able to do sex work. You should be able to go on OnlyFans. You should be able to do these things, right? But then, on the other hand, When you have a child with somebody, you all of a sudden there's no agency. You were tricked. He wasn't who he thought he was, who I thought he was. Oh, he changed. And oftentimes he already had kids. He already was who he said he was. But that's what got you excited. That was the turn on. So you didn't want the educated lame, right? You didn't want the guy that was going to work every day in and day out. Mr. Consistent. Whether it was Arby's or UPS. You pick what you wanted. And then you think that you're going to make that man be a father to a child that he didn't want. And then there's anger and regret and animosity both ways. And the innocent child is the one that suffers from it. And we have all the statistics on how children do better in a two-parent household. Neglect or abuse. It's one or the other. So, back to what I was saying here. With the accountability doctrine, if a person has a child knowing they cannot provide for food, shelter, and other basic needs for their child, and or that child is suffering from mental health issues, that would fit one or both of those definitions above that I just read. And yes, you are correct. If a person has a child knowing that they cannot provide their basic needs, or if they are suffering from mental health, it is considered neglect or abuse. Now we can look at the United Nations Convention of Rights of the Child, the UNCRC. They recognize the right of the children to be protected from all forms of abuse and neglect. We can look at the Child Abuse Prevention Treatment Act, CAPTA. It's a federal law in the United States that provides funding to states for prevention, identification, and treatment of abuse and neglect. We have the Child Care and Protection Act of 2010, the CCPA, which is a law in Jamaica that provides for the care and protection of children who are in need of care and protection. The law defines neglect as failure of a parent or guardian to provide for the basic needs of the child, including food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and education. We also have the Children Act of 1989. The Children Act 1989 is a law in the UK that outlines the responsibilities of the parents and local authorities in ensuring the welfare of children. The law defines neglect as failure to provide the child with adequate food, clothing, shelter, and medical treatment. Now, again, things happen, right? And I understand that. But a lot of this can be mitigated just from saying, hey, can you provide for yourself, your own food, your own shelter? If you can't currently do that, you're not ready to have a child, because you can't do that without getting a subsidy to take care of the child. And we have to get past, we don't want to, blame women or blame, it may be victim blaming or it's racism, it's systemic, all these different reasons that are out there. And some are valid, and it may be a little bit of all those things. But we keep doing the same thing year after year, after decade, after generation. And only a few of us escape, but many of us believe that it's getting worse. We can look at the presidential polls. We can look at the local polls. We can look at how homelessness is increasing. We see the homeless encampments. We see the tent cities. We see the food insecurity. We see the lack of health care. We see the lack of mental health care. We are worse off today than we were yesterday, for sure. Hopium isn't going to fix our situation. We're going to have to do something. We're going to have to do something that's radical. One of those things, prison reform. Let's go into it. Prison reform should be immediate, substantial. Men's prisons have the highest demographic of sexual assault and rape in the country, and it needs to stop immediately. Beliefs of, well, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime, don't have any place in a civilized democracy. Believing a carjacker or a drug dealer needs to be raped or sexually assaulted would be like saying your kid deserves the same thing when they don't perform well on a test. That flippant, egregious attitude of American citizens is a major factor when these crimes occur. And of course, Black men are disproportionately incarcerated and receive longer sentences. And so by far, they're the most victimized in this current system. And while that further illuminates systemic racism that exists in America, that's neither here nor there in this conversation now. And while many may be up at arms about the thoughts, they will only be able to muster a tokenized, disavowed view of while they pontificate and prioritize their own positions. Meaning, well, you might say, yeah, they shouldn't be raped. But this is what we need to focus on. That doesn't even get acknowledged. And then is that there's no care, there's no training, there's no reform that happens. There's just more trauma. And those folks come out of jail and prison with fewer choices and have to overcome tremendous odds to not say, you know what? Society don't give a damn about me. You don't give a damn about me. I'm going to do what I do. To hell. So prison needs to be made safe from physical assault with substantial penalties for those that engage in it. Number one, jails and prisons need to switch to a rehabilitation model. A majority of crimes can be avoided with education, training, access, healthcare, livable wages, etc. These programs, I believe, need to start day one and for people awaiting trial. A, labor should be used to prefab housing materials to offset the cost of labor to address our homeless and home affordability issues. We know labor is the most expensive thing. And what happens is we subsidize these developers to come from other states often. And they need these crazy tax incentives to build. So you know what? Let's go ahead and use the people that we have and give them skills, give them training. B, labor should be used to support a narrow list of nonprofits that work with the most vulnerable in our society. Whether it's working on websites or social media, cybersecurity, things of that nature. C, labor should be used to farm land and cultivating that land and using sustainable resources. Those incarcerated should definitely receive the requisite degrees, certificates, or equivalent credentials to ensure employment once their time is served. It does us no good as a society to just lock someone away for however long and let them out even further behind than they were before, him or her. And so if you're out here and you haven't been breaking the law and you've just been trying to survive, and you find yourself with mental health issues, you find yourself abusing alcohol, you find yourself abusing prescription pills, you find yourself doing illegal drugs because you're just trying to get through the day because it's so hard. It's pretty easy to see that someone who's been incarcerated that comes out and doesn't have any options or resources, how easy it is to fall into that or fall back into that. So you can pay for it on the front end, or you can pay for it on the back end, or you can invest and change the whole game. 3, parenting, conflict resolution, resource access, and utilization should be taught. Not when they get out, but while they're in, so they understand how to apply for resources, how to navigate resources, how to fill out for resources, whether it's even entrepreneurship, grants, things of that nature. 4, each incarcerated person should have a case manager to help them through the process. 5, alternative housing similar to halfway houses should be created to not increase the homeless population and to decrease the likelihood of housing insecurity due to lack of job or wages. So we have a bunch of folks coming out. They get a bus ticket and $40. Good luck. Okay. Well, I got to do what I got to do, right? Really hard for people to overcome under those conditions. Number 6, those who have 15 years or more should also be in these programs. Number 7, transparency for jail staff, courts, and law enforcement. A, those caught abusing these people receive the same charge as the person they victimized in regards to time. B, they lose the right to practice law, protect and serve, and will be put on a registry. Any individual or organization hiring them in those positions will receive the same consequences. C, you have to disincentivize the system in order to dismantle the system. C, ending qualified immunity, subjective charging, and other inequitable actions will decrease abuse in the system. So when that 20-something young white teacher, female teacher sleeps with the student, and we say sleep, that's rape, right? Because if it was a male teacher, well, he raped that 14-year-old girl. He raped that 15-year-old girl. But when it's a 20-year-old female teacher who had a relationship with a 14-year-old boy, a 15-year-old boy, that's what it is. That's what we call it. No, it's rape. So if you're going to give a man 36 months and he's registered as a sex offender for the rest of his life, that's the same thing that you're going to give to her. Standard across the board. Everyone gets the same thing. 8, the worst crime should be segregated from the new model. Number 9, if sex work is decriminalized, then supporting sex work should also be decriminalized. See, we need, what is equity? If you're saying, hey, there's a recession and it's tough out here and women have to do what they have to do and they should be able to do what they want to do. If they want to work as sex workers, they should do that. If they want to have an OnlyFans, they should be able to do that. Then the market that wants to pay for those services should be able to do that. So you can't criminalize the Johns, to use a pejorative, that want to patron sex workers. Now that said, A, there should be harsher penalties for trafficking people against their will and minors. Let's be very clear on that. So there's no miscommunication. 10, cut off the drug supply at the middle. Decriminalize the user. Harshly criminalize mid-level drug dealers. We know where the drugs come from. We know where they flow. And if we wanted to stop it, we could. We don't. Not yet. Multi-billion-dollar industry. Why would we stop it? People are getting rich off of it. But it's really easy to fix. And we can say, yeah, well, we decriminalize the user, and we see what's happened in Portland, we see what happens and all of many of our other cities, yeah, it's bad. Why? Because we don't go and attack the dealers. I'm talking about the real dealers, not the ones that are getting high off their own supply or they're selling to continue to use, right? You take the mid-level people off. If these drugs are killing people, ecstasy, fentanyl, and they've got a large amount, give them a life sentence. Give them a life sentence. You see, everybody can't go and get an OnlyFans and make money from it, right? Everyone can't go and become a sex worker and make a viable living off of it. Everyone shouldn't be able to go and sell drugs and say, hey, that I had no other options. That's what I had to do. No, you didn't want to work at McDonald's. No, you didn't want to go to school. No, it's not as glamorous. And yes, that job pays too low, and that's something that we need to work on. But you don't have a right to hurt people. D, double life for law enforcement and those who aid and abet. Because again, a lot of times they have to turn a blind eye. They have to make it acceptable for the drugs to flow and for the dealers to deal. Gangs like the Aryan Nations, the Skidheads, the KKK, the Yakuza, the Triads, the Mafias, and other gangs should receive harsh sentences. White-collar crimes, especially Wall Street, should be charged the same way. The way that they hit these folks with RICOs, our rappers are getting hit with RICO charges. You do the same thing for white-collar crime and Wall Street crime. Because it touches them too, right? So in summary, while the initial cost may increase in the beginning, and definitely folks will be affected negatively, in mere months, I believe this program will generate a surplus, reducing health costs, debt, lack of job skills, and addressing basic needs and insecurities. This plan can also reduce our need for fossil fuels, exploiting our global labor and protecting the US dollar while increasing exporting goods and services. We need a multi-pronged approach. It needs to be radical. It needs to be immediate. It needs to be swift in order for us to minimize the harm that is currently happening in the deaths of 12-year-olds that cannot be brought back. And while I hesitate to make comparisons, I would rather my daughter's belly growl than for her to not be here at all. Women have a choice. You can have an abortion. You can give the baby away for adoption, or you can raise a child. Men should have a choice. They can raise a child, or they can financially abort the child. Neglect or abuse happens when people willfully or unwillfully bring a child into the world that they know that they can't take care of. And I'm not saying that it's a thing where, oh, it takes what do they say, $2 million to raise a child from 0 to 18. It's some crazy number, right? When most of us raise children and we never see that kind of money in our lifetime. But if you're unable to feed and shelter yourself, that is neglect if you're bringing a child into the world. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. These children are innocent. They deserve a chance. We call them our babies. But all of a sudden, our babies are 12 and they have Uzis and guns. And they're knocking each other out. They're shooting at each other. They're killing each other. They're having children in their teens, in their young 20s. And at the end of the day, they're children. Honestly, they're the innocent ones in this. It's the parents that are guilty. Because those children didn't ask to be brought into the world. You made a conscious decision. And just like the mother was saying, hey, I tried to talk to the mothers. And most of them, hey, they just wanted to go to the club, kick it, turn up, hang out. We've got to do something different. Unfortunately, liberals are going to say, nope, that's too harsh. We can't do that. We need to do something. We just need to come together as a community. We can do more. We can be better. No one has any answers. There's nothing in the works that's being done. And I watch many organizations, good folks, not all good folks. Some are very predatory, and they use the fact that, they will defend your right to bring a child into the world that you can't take care of because they're going to get the bag off your kid. So at the end of the day, they don't really honestly care whether your kid is successful or not, or gets out or not. There's a bag behind your child, and they're getting that bag. And whether your child learns financial literacy, health is wealth, STEM, doesn't really matter. They get the bag all the way. Something needs to change. It's out of control. All right. I am Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. I have spoken. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll be back tomorrow night for, tomorrow's the library. Board meeting for the library. Wednesdays. No city council this Wednesday. Got some more shows coming up. Unfortunately, you'll probably see more and more of me having these conversations just because they're happening so frequently now. It's too much. It's too much, y'all. All right.